Here's the thing that I find so interesting. The Reagan guys, and David Stockman has written basically a book of apology about this, but the rest of them are not apologizing. And, Steve Moore and Art Laffer and all these other guys, they're still running around promoting this stuff. The Reagan guys, when they figured out the trickle-down economics, the supply-side economics, the Reaganomics, the trickle-on, whatever you want to call it, that didn't work. That theory that if we cut taxes on rich people, we'll get more income into the government. When they figured out that didn't work, that Art Laffer had just a harebrained idea and that it was a scam, they came up with a scam to hide the scam, right? In other words, they said, well, yeah, of course, we knew that it was going to run up a deficit. We wanted it to run up a deficit because by running up a deficit, we're going to create a situation where the Democrats can no longer play Santa Claus. They can no longer give stuff away. In fact, they're going to have to shoot Santa Claus. They're going to have to dial back on Social Security. They're going to have to dial back on Medicare. They're going to have to cut funding to education. We can privatize schools. We can start issuing school vouchers. We can bring the churches in. They'll help the schools. We can always rely on them. All this kind of stuff, right? It was a totally cynical ploy on the Republicans' part, on the Reaganites' part. They knew that their goal never was to, quote, starve the beast. They had been, they actually believed beginning that government deficits were a bad thing. So they had to figure out a way to rationalize tripling the national debt in 8 years. And this was their rationale. Now, here's where the problem comes in. These guys sat around and said, okay, the American people are fairly stupid. They will buy this if we sell it right. So we're going to sell it. The way that we're going to sell it to them is, the job creators, they need even more tax cuts. And if it cuts revenue to the government, that's a good thing because it's going to starve the beast of government and thus the beast of the Democratic Party. But don't worry, it'll all work out in the end because we continue to believe that, in supply-side trickle-down economics, that continue to cut taxes on rich people or refuse to raise taxes on them or on corporations, that eventually we'll have great prosperity. Everything will be wonderful. Now, the American people, or at least the Republicans, people who vote Republican, by and large bought this crock and still repeat it. And you hear it, you'll hear it every day on hate radio. You hear it on Fox so-called news. But those people, I guarantee you, the guys on right-wing hate radio, the Limbaugh with his $400 million contract or whatever it is, Hannity with his $200 million contract, these guys know that this is a lie. They know it's a scam. But apparently nobody bothered to tell Sam Brownback or Bobby Jindal, which is astonishing. So Bobby Jindal, the governor of Louisiana, wants to be president of the United States. He's not. He's part of the sideshow, right? He's just another freak in the Republican freak show. And this is what made him a freak, is that he did to Louisiana something similar to what Sam Brownback did in Kansas. Now, Brownback actually he said, the Koch brothers, hey, it's a sub-S corporation, Koch Industries, or large. You don't have to pay any taxes at all to the state of Kansas. He exempted over 100,000 companies in Kansas from paying any state income tax. Plus, he dropped the top tax rate on rich people like the Koch brothers who live in Kansas. And what happened? His state is bankrupt, or nearly. They've literally had their credit rating downgraded. So what does the Associated Press say is going on down in Louisiana now? Dateline Baton Rouge, Melinda Deslate, writing for the Associated Press. Year after year, Louisiana didn't have enough money to cover its expenses, yet Governor Bobby Jindal refused to roll back income tax cuts and refused to roll back his ever-increasing corporate tax breaks. He cut taxes on rich people in Louisiana. He cut taxes on corporations in Louisiana. He keeps doing it. Instead, he raided reserve funds and sold off state property. Now, this is not something from the Democratic Party. This is the Associated Press. Jindal suggested job growth from his economic development wins would replenish those assets once the recession ended. It hasn't. Now the Republican is running out of short-term patches and is struggling to plug a $1.6 billion budget hole just as he tries to build support for a possible 2016 presidential win. What is he going to cut? Higher education, healthcare services. This is what the state treasurer, John Kennedy, who is a Republican, this is what the Republican treasurer, John Kennedy of Louisiana, said, quote, "They've used all the smoke that was in the can and all the mirrors that they could buy, and now they're out of tricks. Their solution is to gut higher education like a fish." That's the Republican. They're going to dial back on, they're going to cut funding for railroad crossing safety, reef construction, which protects the coastline, housing programs, and the blind. This is Bobby Jindal's solution. Instead of stopping his or rolling back his tax cuts to rich people, let's just cut funding for blind people. The governor has successfully trimmed some spending by cutting more than 30,000 full-time state employees. Just fire them. Yeah, unemployment will go up a little bit, but who cares? They were government workers. He privatized much of the Medicaid program, and he turned over the state's charity hospitals to outside managers. Brilliant.